This is Morgan Freeman, and you are listening to one of the most important podcasts ever made in the history of podcasting, the Pocket Party Podcast with my good friend, Darren Carter.
Pocket Party.
So cool, we are calling Rich Chassler. I knew him as Richard, but now he's Rich. Pocket Party Podcast. In case you didn't know.
Hello.
Hello, is this the Rich Chassler?
This is the Rich Chassler. Is this Cartelio's with my Italian food order?
No, it's Darren Carter from the Pocket Party Podcast.
Darren Carter, the party starter.
I was just telling
How are you, my
I'm
friend?
good, my friend. Dude, I'm so glad to have you on. I know we tried, dude, we must have tried at least 3 times during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's do it. And you're like, oh, I can't that Friday. And I'm like, so finally to get you on the show. And I see you're back from touring all over Florida, and you're back with Nick Swartzen. And thank you for taking time out of your day to do the show. Thank you.
Listen, as much as you're thanking me, thank you for having me, Darren. We go back almost 20 years, and it is a real joy to be able to do this with you. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. I was just telling the audience, I said we're calling Rich Chassler. I know him as Richard Chassler, but he's changed his name, and I love the whole makeover and everything. Tell us what's going on with why'd you go from Richard Chassler to Rich Chassler?
Well, okay, so that's a great way to start this, seriously. When I was growing up, I was Richie.
Oh.
And my family calls me Richie, and some of my old friends from elementary school call me Richie. In fact, you might even hear Fraser Smith call me Richie, but he's known me since I'm 20. And it just kind of stuck with him. But when I turned 18, I was like, Rich or Richard. No more Richie. Richie's like the guy in Brooklyn with the IROC Z who won't leave the street corner in front of the candy shop, Hey, yo, Richie!
Hey, Richie!
And I just never, I never wanted that assimilation. So I became Rich or Richard. And as I got older and my hair got thinner and less of it, Richard kind of grew into like this sort of like, whoa, he looks like an accountant. And Richard it just was kind of that vibe.
I love what you said earlier on the phone. You were like, it was kind of like this Captain Stubing from the Love Boat, like accountant.
I admire, because you were able to just go screw it and you just shaved it and that was that. I couldn't let go of what little hair I had left. I admit it. I grew up a surfer and a skateboarder when my family left New York, and my hair was like thick and long, and I just couldn't get rid of it, dude. I couldn't take the thing to it. And then
it did take me for a while, because I slowly went shorter. I kept going shorter and shorter. Then one day my wife was out of town, and I was like, you know what, I don't know if I think I cut my hair myself that day, and I took the guard and I put it at about a 2, and I just
well, that's where I was shaving. It was down to a 2.
Oh, okay, and then
I was keeping it at like a 2.
Yeah, see, that's what you did. You did the right thing. You don't go from like long hair to like nothing. You go down to a 2 where there's like maybe a finger length of hair, and I remember driving down the road, and at one point I was at a stoplight, and I looked at myself after I shaved it down to a 2, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I like this, but I was like, well, too late, And then I just, and then I started getting used to the 2. It shocked my wife at first. She's like, where'd your hair go? I'm like, it was already going. Come on, I just had something on the side, And then I went down to the 1, and then eventually I was just like, boom, no, I'm gonna shave my hair, no guard, and just. So I always have that stubble, but lately I've even been using the razor to kind of. I'm like, you know what? Have you gone blade and shaving cream yet?
I haven't, and I'm probably not going to get that far, and I'm going to tell you why. And
Okay.
I'm going to admit something right now to everybody. It wasn't really my gumption to shave it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to kid you. Somebody quite amazing sent me this picture one day of Chris Maloney. Okay?
Yeah.
Chris Maloney, who played Stabler on Law & Order SVU. And now he's doing Law & Order Organized Crime. And I have always been recognized as Chris Maloney, mistaken for Chris Maloney. I'm on the bus in New York, and these two women are sitting across from me going, "You're Law and Order. Why are you on the bus, Law and Order? You're supposed to be in a limousine." You know, like I've constantly been so out of the blue, this person sends me this picture of Chris Maloney and says, "If you do this, you will look 10 years younger and even hotter." Which means there was an indication that there was already some heat. So I was like, even hotter? Really? Okay, done.
Yeah,
and I had a photo shoot coming up with the great Troy Conrad.
Oh, Troy's great.
So
yeah.
Troy's great. So Troy was going to shoot me, and I brought my clipper to the shoot.
Ooh. I like it.
I didn't tell Troy, but I had I paid a makeup guy to be at the shoot. And when I got there and he's going through the looks and all my clothes and stuff, I said to the guy, and I said to Troy, "Listen, I'm going to let you know about halfway through this thing, we're shaving this."
That's
and
cool.
He was like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, we're getting rid of it, and this is the day we're going to do it. We're going to shoot it." And I didn't have like a quarter-size guard with me. And the makeup guy, bless his heart, he hand did it with the shaver and no guard and got it down to just basic stub.
Wow.
And it looked really good. And
by the way, you got to can you do me a favor and send me some photos, cuz I want to when I promote this episode, I want to put those out there.
Oh, yeah, all my new headshots, everything. I absolutely will. But I did it, and I literally ran my hand across my head, and I went, "Oh, wow, I love this." Then I got the pictures back, and I mean, it was night and day without what I call the stubing. You know, if it's longer, I call it the Gallagher. But in this case,
you don't want that. And then if it goes gray, you'll call it the Larry David.
Oh, I love it! I never thought about that one. I did. I got rid of the stubing, and I was a guy who didn't have a lot of gray hair anyway. But occasionally, I would just for a minute and get rid of whatever was in there and just keep it. And I was like, what am I doing here? So I just shaved it and to the shoot, and we shot more pictures. And it turned out that I look younger, and apparently everybody says, "Wow." And at that same time, I just there's some couple of positive things in my personal life had taken place, and I just kind of at the behest of someone's advice, I got rid of a bunch of clothes and spent a ton of money on new stuff, and like my whole everything has changed. And then when I was out with Nick, I dropped 20 pounds on the road. I'd broken my foot back in July. I couldn't work out for 7 months because I broke 2 bones in 4 places, and it was really bad. And everything's kind of just changed that way. And the hair was sort of like the steam engine leading the train.
That's a good way to put it, man. And because when I would see you, you'd always have like a sort of a hat on, and I always thought, remember, you'd have the hat on, like those newsboys hats or whatever, or something I picture. And
Yes, and I'm wearing the cap again. Yeah. I got the cap back out, but now it looks really different. The whole vibe has changed, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, that's you're like, before people were like, "Is this guy gonna smash a watermelon or what?" Like. 'Cause when I see you, I never saw that stuff. I remember I would be like, "Dude, you remind me of David Lee Roth." Like
I was like, you would tell me that.
I was like, "Hey, here comes the leader, the Van Halen, David Lee Roth, good vibes." Yeah, you're right. And then I've been seeing the photos online of you on stage on tour, and you're right, with the shaved head, you look like you're like the headliner, like you're like a star, not just a headliner. You know what I mean? I'm like, this guy looks like he's really, and you're right. It's like the steam engine that's driving the train. I mean, I remember I did like a little bit of a makeover about, 15 years ago. I used to wear like baggier jeans and baggier clothes, and then I got clothes that just fit right, and everyone's like, "You look like you lost weight," which I might have lost a little weight, but I think really it was just not wearing the baggy clothes from the early 2000s.
When I first met you, you were in baggy jeans. When I first met you, the very first time I met you was at the old Ha-Ha.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, baggy.
We were on the same show.
Yeah.
And that was like way early 2000s. And you were in baggy jeans. If I'm not mistaken, you were wearing like a baggy jersey, like a hockey jersey.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I was doing.
Yes.
I used to do BET a lot, and they'd always give us like free clothes. Like,
Yes.
So I was wearing like these FUBU clothes that were free, and
Yes.
and I wasn't even like really into that scene, but I was just like, oh, that's cool. It looks sharp. This is what's hip. And I remember like this one comic was like, yeah, carpenter jeans are what's happening. So I was buying those carpenter jeans because they had all the cool.
Oh, the worst. Oh, no. The worst. They have the bottom side of overalls, basically.
Exactly. I thought that was fashion. I didn't know, and then like.
I know, and we're guys. We're on the road, like, and again, my father was in the fashion business. I grew up all over women's fashion, but somehow the gene bypassed me.
Yeah.
And now I have been prohibited from buying any baggy clothes, nothing below I can't even wear shorts below my knee now because they don't elongate my body. Like, I'm learning.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yes, dude. I've got
Yeah.
I am getting information from somebody insanely good, and they just see me there, and so yes, the image, and it's funny you said how I look on the road. You look like I'm getting that from people. All of a sudden, I'm walking into a room. It's a whole different thing. I can't explain it, but
Wow.
I feel different about it, and I guess that's playing across the board.
Dude, this goes back to what I was thinking about this years ago. Like, I was in Miami one day, and I mean, I used to do a joke about this, but I think it's going back. I was in Miami, and I was walking down I don't know, we were on the boardwalk or whatever it was, the beach, and I remember looking around, because back then I was wearing like the dolphin shorts, like those the shorts.
Stripes or no stripes?
Yeah, no stripes, and they were high. But I thought that was cool because I thought, hey, it shows off more of my leg muscles, my my quads or whatever. And,
yeah, they're cool if you're hanging out at Rage.
Right, I'm like exactly, and I was somewhere in these they weren't that short, but they were like probably like up. They were definitely above the knee and like maybe mid muscle or whatever, mid quad.
Right.
And I'm like looking around. This is like 15 years ago as well. I have no concept of time. Maybe it was longer, and I was like, wow, everybody's shorts are longer than mine. They're all going down to about their knee. I'm like, what am I doing? So then I immediately went out and bought like a bunch of cargo shorts, and I've been wearing
cargo shorts. That's when cargo shorts came
Dude,
in.
And
right.
I've been wearing cargo shorts for the last 15, 20 years. And now
you're not allowed to wear those anymore, dude.
Exactly. I know. I'm looking
Throw 'em
around.
out.
Totally. Here's the thing, dude. I'm so lucky. I got my son. He's 14, and he's outgrown his shorts and his jeans, and I'm actually receiving hand-me-ups.
Forget the clothes. Just get him to help you with the social media.
That too, dude. He put up a video. It got over 2 million views on YouTube.
Because of him.
Yes. No, yeah, it's his video. He's a musician. He did a music thing, and
oh yeah, I've seen him. I've seen some of his stuff that you put up.
so good. Anyways, but yeah, so now I've been wearing like the shorts that he can't fit into, or he doesn't wear them anymore, and now I'm looking all cool and hip, and I'm like, oh yeah, they are tighter and they are a little shorter, but they're not like what I was talking. They're not like the Richard Simmons from like what I was wearing before. But I was like, wow, this is all it takes to make you look like you said. It shaves off some years and makes you look like you're. Yeah, dude. I don't know what I was doing. I almost want to get rid of those cargo shorts that I have, but yeah, I probably should.
I'm not an influencer, but I will be buying shorts today at Lululemon if Lululemon is listening.
Do they have? Here's the thing. I'm very specific when it comes to shorts, though. I like the back pockets to either snap or I like them to be closed because if I have my wallet back there, I want to make sure like okay, it's secure back there. Yeah,
not to take this into a different space where people are going to question, who we like to see, whether your wife is male or female, but Lululemon's got some really cool shorts and some really great colors. Oh, yeah, colors. Go with colors, too. Colors are everything.
Colors. Oh, it's funny. Yeah, maybe I'm doing something old by mentioning a wallet. You're like, no, dude, everything is electronic, bro.
No, I carry a wallet. I carry cash. Sorry, I'm over 40, man.
I know, dude.
Yeah, I still, if I had a typewriter and could put a piece of Correcto type in it, I would.
I know, because everything moves so fast, but you got to kind of know about it. But then part of me is like, I still like the old way of like, like you said, having the cash on you. You could, when you go out to eat, you're like, hey, let me throw down some ones for the server, or whatever. You know what I mean?
I love cash. And I miss carrying change to use a payphone. I'm not kidding. I'm getting more and more I don't want to say frustrated, but just more disdain for the cell phone. And I'm now leaving it home sometimes. Like if I got to go to the market, sometimes I won't even take it. If I'm going to be gone 20 minutes, I leave the cell phone home. And now I'm hearing about guys like Ray LaMontagne who doesn't even own a cell phone.
It does feel
like
good.
How nice would that
I think part of what when I go to the boxing gym is I put my phone away and I don't look at it for 45 minutes, an hour. And it's nice to like just concentrate on in the moment. And then it's also kind of giving you a gift because when you're all done and you look at your phone and you get a bunch of notifications, it's like, oh, cool. Like things are happening. I'm busy, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or even when you sleep and you wake up and there's like 8 hours worth of, notifications or when you get off a flight, that kind of thing.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, that's the one thing. But I have to say, I'm really trying to not disconnect from the technology, but at times just power it down.
Yeah.
Or leave it home if I can for a little bit,
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how you got into comedy and the different stars that you've worked with, because you've done a lot. When did you move to Los Angeles?
So my family moved to L.A. when I was 12. And it certainly was not like, a normal person's life. We moved to the hills of Sherman Oaks. I went to Stephen S. Wise Temple with, anybody in L.A. who had money or any kind of stature. That's where they went, up on the hill. And I wasn't at all about that. I didn't, I was a kid who played in the street, you know what I mean, when I was living in New York. We played ball and backyard baseball and street hockey. And now all of a sudden I'm going to a temple that's got a swimming pool, a tennis court, a 9-hole golf course.
Nice.
In the summertime they call it Temple Bethel Oaks, and then they don't let the Jews in.
That's hilarious.
So I moved here when I was 12, and all of a sudden I'm going to school with the kids of like people I'm watching on TV.
I got to tell you, that's funny that because I think before we answered, I go, are you Jewish? And you said yes. Or what did you say? You said a funnier answer than that. I go, Richard Chassler.
Oh, yeah. I said something like, it's hard not to see me as Jewish. I actually do a joke that, I'm not really Jewish. I just look it. I was born Italian. My real last name is Chastlerini.
Chastlerini. Well, God rest his soul. I'm a huge fan of Gilbert Gottfried, and I love listening to his podcast and reading his books and stuff. And I just, a lot of times I would hear, when they would have guests on, it was, they would talk, they would do a little bit of talking about, growing up Jewish or temple or just the history of comedy with like the ka and the ba and the p and I think there's such a rich history there, a Rich Chassler history there. It does. And it's cool. It's like,
there's something about that hard concept. Like, I was just having this conversation over the weekend. Those rules of comedy in terms of like how the mechanics work and, 3 tags and ending on the hard consonant and the shorter vowel count, and just these things. And I guess this comes from like vaudeville when they really were writing comedy. And you watch even Abbott and Costello, you watch them, and these rules were applying back then.
Yeah, like you make it fast, make it loud, and but then you could slow it down, and then you hit him with the k, and and certain phrases like poodle is going to be funny,
Like, it's just that imagery or the double O,
Yeah. Okay, so you're a young boy, you come out here, boom, you're from the streets, and all of a sudden the kids are like you're seeing like whoa, there's like, do you remember some of the famous? Yes.
Let me repaint that picture. Yeah. I played in the street. I'm from Jericho, Long Island on the North Shore, okay? Yeah. We didn't even have gangs. We had Jewish kids who ran around the country bar mitzvah money, and then you were tiered by how much you got.
Yeah, he's from the streets.
Bonds didn't count, cash only.
Oh, nice.
So, like, yeah, my street, that was my street life. Was like, hey, I got enough money to buy you an ice cream from the Good Humor Man.
That's funny. I like how specific. Bonds don't count, bro.
It's got to be cash only, dude. So I really came from a very suburban upbringing, but I spent a lot of time in New York City when I was a kid. My dad worked in the city. I would go in with him, and then a little known fact, I started playing drums when I was like almost 7. I was like a little older than 6.5. I built a drum set somehow on a rainy day, and I started playing drums and became a prodigy. By the age of 9, I was playing in jazz clubs in New York City. Yeah, my drum teacher would take me into the city, and I would be drumming at jazz clubs.
I'm telling you, dude, you're really David Lee Roth. Will you just admit it already?
Man, let me tell you something, Darren. I wish Van Halen would get back together again.
And then I met the Van Halen brothers. Wow!
I saw David Lee right before pandemic open for Kiss.
Wow.
It was magnificent.
He's great. I love hearing him on podcasts. I love his music, and I love hearing, man, it's, he would be an interesting guy. Like, I would imagine seeing his show, you never know what you're going to get, and you're probably not going to get the record that you heard in the 80s, but it's going to be still an entertaining experience.
Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, go for it.
He was so fucking good. I can't even tell you. As good as Kiss was, David Lee Roth ate that stage up. I mean, his kick, maybe not quite as high, but he worked it, man. And what a joy. I was with my brother. We went to go see Kiss, and it was just, Paul Stanley hooked us up, and we got these great tickets, and we were literally like just feet from the stage watching David Lee Roth eat it up, and it was almost as good as the headliner.
Wow. So that's good.
Yeah.
I like being inspired by other artists. Even, it doesn't have to necessarily be comedy. I mean, it can be comedy, but just what you said. Like, I remember I was watching Billy Joe Schaefer at a country music concert, and this guy must have been in his 70s. He might have been, I don't know how. He was definitely in his 70s. And at one point there was a music break. And what does he do? He shadowboxed for a little bit, and then he got down and he did some push-ups, and he jumped up and shadowboxed a little bit, and then he went right back to the mic and started singing. And I think there was something to that, seeing this older guy that's like, I still got it. And he's like doing the push-ups on stage, and for some reason it worked. It worked,
That's hilarious.
I know.
That is so funny.
Yeah, they and I remember like when I saw we were at the Hollywood Bowl, we saw Aerosmith, and at one point Steven Tyler went out to the front of the stage, and he had his leather jacket on, and he somehow flipped it like he like almost like he's doing a bow, but his leather jacket, he threw it into the crowd that way, like that's how he gave it, but it looked really cool, like la, 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 and he flipped it, and boom, it flies out in the audience. You're like, that's so cool. Like, it sounds lame.
Yeah.
Like if you were to tell someone during the day, here's what I'm going to do tonight. But in the moment, the way it looked, it was like, dang, that's cool.
Yeah, Tyler's a great performer anyway. He's just so good. So yes, I moved to New York I moved from New York when I was 12, and I got into comedy. I was always an actor. I did theater my whole life through elementary school, junior high, well, mostly high school. My junior high didn't really have a theater department, but even in high school, I knew I wanted to be an actor. That was always going to be it. And when I was 20, I got cast on an NBC soap opera called Santa Barbara.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was a very small stint. I did like 4 episodes. I was only supposed to do 1. And I wound up doing 4, but 2 of them never aired. So only 2 of the episodes aired, and they fired me. Basically, I didn't know what I was doing. I was a 20-year-old kid. I had a manager who wanted to sleep with me, and I just got no guidance anywhere. And I saw all the stars, like how they were behaving on the set, like stopping the take and talking to the director through the camera, and so I thought that's what you do.
Yeah.
And so I was a day player, man. I had like 3 lines in each episode, and we were doing a scene, and I literally just went, can we stop?
Oh, no.
I'm stopping an NBC production, which costs about $30,000 a minute.
Oh,
and so I'm like, can we stop for a second? And I look right into the camera because the directors aren't on the stage on soap operas. They sit up in a control booth. So I literally look into the camera and I go like, Bob, do you think maybe we could run that back for a second and start again? There's something in that line that I know that I just didn't hit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was the last day I was on the call sheet. So I needed a job, and I got a job at Paramount Studios as a security guard.
Oh, actually, that's a really good job to have when you think about it, right?
Yeah, I was 20 years old, and I had keys to the whole studio. And
here's why I say that. I'm listening to this book by Jerry Weintraub, and he talks about like not only is it good to know, like Lou Wasserman, you need to know, like, he goes, know the security guard on the lot, or, you know, he would name like the head of like the movie studio, and he goes, and then you also be friendly, because he goes, if you can't be friendly with the security guard at front, you're not going to get to the big boss in the office upstairs. So
correct, and I at one point I had been moved to the main gate.
nice.
I was the guy at the gate working, you know, like from 8 to 4. 20 years old, thick head of hair, cut, svelte, in shape, in a uniform. Oh, I thought my career and life were made. You joking?
Yeah.
Who's gonna pass this beefcake up?
They're going to pull in
But
and
then I
go,
opened
do you want to
my
play a
mouth.
superhero in our latest project? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would be like, what, me, a superhero? Yeah, totally. I studied with Stella Adler. And that would be,
Yeah. And you want to be Rocky? You want to be in the next Rocky? Absolutely. I'm a Richard Chassler.
yeah, it was hilarious. So I worked as a guard, and that my first night on as a guard, they put me on the dressing room watch on a Friday night during the taping of Family Ties.
Oh, cool.
And I met Mark Price that night, and we really didn't talk much, but Michael J. Fox and I had met prior, and so like they kept me on working Family Ties for a couple months, and Mark and I sort of got to know each other a little bit and started hanging out. And one night we were in his apartment. Yes, Mark was 17, had his own apartment on Normandy and 3rd, and we had ordered in wine and pizza, because back then they would deliver wine. They didn't check IDs or anything, you know, it was... So Mark and I are a little bit buzzed, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're so funny, Richie." That's what. See, even back then, I was still Richie to some people.
Oh,
And he goes,
that's
"Oh my God,
cool.
you're so funny, Richie. You should do stand-up comedy." And I went, "Stand-up comedy? No, sir. I study acting with Stella Adler. I did Henry IV in the park. I am not a court jester for you to guffaw at."
I talk directly to directors to the camera on the stage of Santa Barbara.
Exactly. I talk to the director and get fired myself. And so he was like, "Wow, that's great, but small theater's dead in L.A., and you should really try stand-up. It's coming up, and it's super hot, and you're super funny." And so we literally, Mark and I...
By the way, for the audience who
doesn't...
doesn't know, Mark played Skippy on Family Ties. Skippy.
Yes, Mark was the nerdy next-door neighbor on Family Ties, and so we wrote this act. And his dad, by the way, Mark grew up in the shadows of stand-up comedy. His father's name was Al Burney, and he was one of the biggest Catskill comedians ever.
Wow, Al Burney.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Burl, Al Burney, Mousy Lawrence, Freddie Roman. Like Al was part of that crew.
Wow.
And so Mark was like, he kind of had it in his bones, but not his blood, I'm just saying. And so Mark was like, "You're so funny. You should do stand-up." And 3 weeks, I think we spent like a week working on like a 6 or 7 minutes. We wrote it out, and we worked on it and wrote jokes. And the next thing you knew, I did the Mark called Jamie Masada, who owns the Laugh Factory, for people who don't know. And I did 5 minutes at the Laugh Factory, and like everybody else's first 5 minutes, I killed.
Yep.
Got addicted immediately to the response. It was like being in theater. And then for the next 3 years, I ate shit on stage because I was going on stage as an actor, acting like a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I couldn't, it took me a long time to get rid of that and get comfortable in that skin, but Mark's the one who started me. True.
By the way, I don't know when you guys are listening to this. Hopefully you're listening before the date, but I will be at the Canyon Club in Agora Hills with the one and only Mark Price. I will be there with Mark.
I'm waiting for Craig to give me a date for that show. Craig Shoemaker, the Love Master. For those, that's how incestuous comedy is. You know, it's like you don't mean to drop a name, but it's just like we all know each other.
Yeah.
We all work with each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes it sounds like you're being pompous, but you're not. You just want the people to know who you're talking about.
Right. And, exactly. You want them to know who you're talking about. And especially, people who've been around for as long as we have, we start to, you definitely know people. And I would say you really know a lot of people because you came right to Hollywood in the 80s. I mean, I didn't come here until the mid 90s, so you have these great stories of,
I can tell you stories about partying with like Motley Crue.
Wow.
I mean, it goes on. Yeah, it's just when you grow up in it, it almost is like, it's just part of the lexicon. You just sort of, everyone, you know someone who knows someone, or you live next door to someone, or they're up the street. And I mean, my friend, okay, so when I was in high school, I played in a band. And the guitar player in my band, Andy Nelson, lived in Sherman Oaks. And on the corner of his street, Tom Petty.
Wow.
So we would walk down the street and just kind of like kick around outside Tom Petty's house, hoping we could see him. You know, Damn the Torpedoes had just come out. It's like 1981, 82, and we like wanted to meet Tom Petty. And one day the garage is open, and Petty is dragging his own trash cans out on trash day, and he's like, "Hey, how you guys doing?" And like he kind of knew Andy a little bit from being a neighbor, and we were like, "What are you doing?" Trash day tomorrow. We'll take your trash out. Really? Yeah, we'll pull your cans out. So we pulled Tom Petty's cans out,
and
when we walked back in, and when we walk back into the garage, he's got like what I mean, my memory is probably a little bit over-exaggerated on this. The bag was probably not as big as I remember. I thought it was like a Glad trash bag full of weed. And he's just like, "Hey, guys, thanks a lot. Go reach in and grab a handful." And so Petty paid us to take his trash out in weed.
Oh, man, that's rock and roll.
And we went back every day for a couple of months. "Hey, man, you want us to take the trash out?"
Hey, got any Scooby snacks?
And so, yeah, I mean, it's just like, you know, that's not happening in Nebraska.
I know. I was just going to bring that up. So I grew up in Fresno, which might as well have been Nebraska, and Fresno, California. Even though it's only like 3.5 hours north of LA, it's kind of like a totally different world, man. It's like if you know, and it had the good and the bad, you know, and it was definitely a great childhood, like growing up in the suburbs up there, and you know all this stuff. But yeah, you're not. Here's a question I have for you. So here's how our lives are different. I remember growing up, and to make extra money, we were like, "Hey, let's rake our neighbors' leaves. Let's see if we can rake some leaves." And did you guys ever do that? And if so, what do you think they paid? Any idea?
To rake leaves on the front lawn?
Probably not, huh? I think here people probably, especially the neighborhood you grew up in, they probably had like lawn care service, like professional.
On Long Island, we had a maple tree on the front lawn that used to shed like crazy. And we had to rake leaves. And then you do the thing where you make the big pile of leaves and jump in it or kick it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would just piss my mom off like crazy. But I didn't get paid for that. I got room and board.
Yeah. We would do no, but we would do our neighbors. Like, here's what I'm saying. I remember across the street there was these 3 roommates. They were like, to me they looked like hippies because they had like the long hair and they listened to like loud rock music. And I remember those guys paid us $9. You know, they probably split it $3 each to rake their lawn. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty. I felt like it was pretty good, like a $9 back in the early '80s.
Yeah, I mean, my first job when we moved here, like all of a sudden, my dad was like, "No more allowance. You're 12. Get a job." So it wasn't raking leaves in my neighborhood, but I had to wash cars. I made 1,000 flyers and walked all over the hills of Sherman Oaks, putting them in people's mailboxes and saying, "Want your car to shine like new? Stand out while driving? Call Rich at the following number. $10. I'll wash, wax, and salmonize your car." I got 0 phone calls.
Dang.
0.
Wow.
0. Yeah. And I don't know why.
Was your father like, "Well, that's a lesson, son. You have to, you know, improvise and overcome."
No.
He was like, "Well, okay, I guess you're not going to be in the car wash business."
No, neither of those. It was like, "What's the matter with you? How come nobody's going to hire you? What's the matter? What's wrong with you?"
Oh, no.
It was my fault that nobody hired me. Well, you want to know why I do comedy.
See, I think
seriously.
And like I'm listening to this book with Jerry Weintraub, and his, you know, he got the idea, same thing. He wanted to work, and his father was a jeweler, but he didn't really want to do the jewelry business. But he came up with an idea when he was, I want to say 12 or 13, and he's like, "Oh, I know, I'll take people's dry cleaning home, and then they'll tip me." And then he learned like, "Ooh, I can also take home, I can bring their, pick up their clothes from the Chinese laundry, and they'll tip me." And he goes, "At first I was bringing both all in one trip and they were just giving me a dime." And he goes, "And then I realized, ooh, I could do it. I could spread it out over a couple of hours and then they'll tip me twice." And he goes, "The lesson I learned from that is if you can do the same job but get paid twice, do it?
Yeah, mine was just like, my dad was just like, get out of the house and go get a freaking job. And, if you want to sleep inside, you better make some money.
Yeah.
And we, what I mean? We weren't poor at all. And I don't know where the allowance went. And all of a sudden, I had a full-time job by the time I was 14. Dang. I was the only kid in high school, seriously, with a pocket full of cash.
Wow. That makes you feel confident, though, right? Doesn't it? Like, you're like, yeah, I'm working.
No, it made me feel abused. Everybody else is going to the beach on Saturdays and surfing and skating after school. And I'm dragging my ass to a hot dog stand in Sherman Oaks called the Wiener Factory to come home smelling like a floor sink.
You're right. They're probably just getting the free, allowance, and you're having to work for it. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. So you worked with you were 20 years old. You're working the main gate. You're hanging with Mark Price. You're getting on stage, and then you're starting to let's skip over with how you're starting to tour. You worked with Mark. You worked with Mitch Hedberg.
Wow. So yeah, Mark was the first celebrity to take me on tour. I had been doing it about 2.5 years. A friend of mine was on Star Search. His name was Steve-O. The original Steve-O from the Howard Stern Show.
Absolutely. Oh, I didn't know he was on. I did not know he was on the Howard Stern Show.
Not Steve-O jackass guy. There was a comedian out of New York. His name was Steve-O, period. And Steve was, he and Jackie were best friends. They all came up together, with Larry David and everybody in the late 70s and 80s. And Steve was out here, and he was staying at Wayne Fetterman's apartment. For those of you who don't know Wayne Fetterman, he's the guy on all the commercials that talks like this.
By the way, real quick plug, if you guys, Wayne Fetterman wrote a book. Do you know what it's called? Do you happen to remember? It's like the history.
He's written a few books. He wrote a book about Pistol Pete Maverick, and then he's got another book on comedy, and the title of it escapes me right now.
I'm going to Google it real quick because, guys, he did my podcast, so you can go back and you can listen. It's a great book, man. It was a great interview with Wayne, so I'm just going to look it up real quick. Wayne Fetterman Pocket Party. I don't know what episode it was, but I'm just going to tell the people about. Oh yeah, it was episode 162, the history of stand-up comedy, from Dave.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yep. Yeah. It goes what it says. It's episode 162. Wayne Fetterman, author of History of Stand-up, from Mark Twain to Dave Chappelle. That's what it was called.
Yeah, he.
Steve-O, by the way, I remember him on Star Search. He did a joke about Does anybody know how I got the O? And do you remember the punchline?
Oh, shoot. I should know this joke. I should know. Yes. Do you remember what it was?
I think it was something like, I think he said something like, hi, my name is Steve-O. Does anybody know how I got the O? And then the punchline would be, I went on Wheel of Fortune and bought a vowel.
I bought a vowel and kept it.
Yeah.
I bought a vowel and kept it. That was the punchline, yes. So Steve and I are still friends to this day. He was the first guy to take me on the road. And because
can I tell you a joke? I got to tell you a story. So a friend of mine just happened to see him at the Punchline in San Francisco. And the reason I know that is they said that he went out on stage and he was like, my name is Steve-O. Does anybody know how I got the O? And my friend, who didn't know that you weren't supposed to do this, they yelled out the punchline, you went on Wheel of Fortune and bought the O. And then the audience laughed, and then they said that Steve kind of looked stunned a little bit, like, like that. But yeah, hopefully that taught me a lesson. I've learned that lesson not to do these open-ended questions that people can sometimes answer real quick, and it could stumble you. It could make you stumble.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, I do, and you trip over stuff.
You trip over stuff. Yeah. Okay. Go. So please continue.
It's okay. But Mark saw I was touring and that I'm on the road now and I'm working, and he was just like, "Oh, you got to come work with me. You got to come out and work with me." So I would go out and work with Mark Price, and at the time he was on the #1 TV show in the world. He sold out every club we played, and it was like bedlam. And I really started to develop as a stand-up. I got better and better while I was opening for Mark, and that went on for about 3.5 years.
Wow!
Until one night I got the better-looking girl after the show, and he was like, "I can't take you out anymore. I'm supposed to get the girl." True story.
Yeah.
We were in Iowa. True story. True story.
By the way, you guys, that's
So,
that's a good lesson. If you guys are opening for, like, if you're single,
a celebrity.
yeah.
Yeah, let him get his first choice first.
Exactly. See, these are the lessons we learn. Don't ask open-ended questions unless you want the audience to answer. And
Right.
yeah, let the headliner or the bigger star, like, exactly.
Do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But so I worked with Mark, and then that went on for a few years, and then I toured with Mitch Hedberg for 5 years almost. Mitch was like my best friend.
Mitch is great, man. Mitch Hedberg. So when you first worked with Mitch, what was that like?
When I first worked with Mitch, he opened for me. That's not how we met. Mitch and I met at a comedy competition in Colorado. We met at the airport after they had lost my luggage, and so we walked outside doors to smoke a pipe full of weed, and we became instant friends. We roomed together for the 2 weeks. We sat next to each other in the van for 2 weeks where they drove us around from gig to gig, and we just literally became inseparable. And he hadn't really found the rhythm of what he was doing yet, but I heard it, and I thought he was absolutely hilarious. And he told me that, oh, you're the funniest guy on this whole competition. And I would tell him, you're the funniest guy on the whole competition. Wow. And when we got back, I had just started headlining, and I would take him, we'd do some gigs together, and then about a year and a half or two after that, his manager, Dave Becky, got him a gig opening at, I think it was Irvine or Brea. I think it was Irvine. And he called me, and he's like, man, Chastler, I need a favor. And I'm like, okay, how much you need to borrow? And he goes, no, man, don't be mad, but I need a favor. I'm like, okay, how much? And he goes, no, man, I got a gig, and I want you to open for me. And he thought I was going to be mad about that. Oh. And I was like, happy to. Let's go do it. Nobody knew who he was at the time. Yeah. Nobody. He wasn't Mitch Hedberg. He hadn't broken. He was just, my friend who said, I don't want to do this headlining gig by myself. Will you come with me? So I said, sure. And I featured for him, and he crushed. I mean, I hadn't seen him do stand-up in about 6 or 8 months, and he had just found this stride, Darren. And it was magic. And I watched him on stage, and I just remember, and I went, oh, my God, he's going to explode. And we had such a good time. He's like, I got some other stuff. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah. And the next thing I knew, I was just on the road with Mitch.
Wow. What was his writing process like when you guys were out and about?
That's probably the best question you could ask me, because any younger stand-up who is listening to this needs to pay attention to what I'm about to say. Mitch did not go on stage unprepared, and his riffs were mostly, a lot of them were scripted. Mitch was not a guy who, like everyone says, oh, I'm like Hedberg. I just go on stage and meander about until I find the punchline. No, it was not like that. Mitch and I would sit around like car mechanics, seriously, tearing jokes apart, figuring out why man, Chastler, this joke didn't work last night. What's wrong with it? I go, well, you got a number in it, and you're saying 5, and 5 isn't funny. Change it to 17. Stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would go like, Mitch, what's wrong with this joke? You know this joke I'm doing here about the thing with the thing? And he goes, yeah, man, you got your punchline misplaced, man. You should be ending on this word, not this word. So transpose this part of the punchline sentence and move this back and push this forward. Like, we would literally write jokes out to try to figure out why they weren't working or how to make them better, and we were relentless. Like, that was our day. We would just smoke and, just work on jokes. So the process was very much writing. And we would just tear them down, build them back up, tear them down, build them back up. Try them that night, works, doesn't work, works, doesn't work. And Mitch was very specific. Like, you couldn't write for Mitch. Mitch didn't let anybody write for him. And there was an occasion where we were working out of the country, and I had written a joke on the airplane while I was flying to meet him. And the joke, no way I could sell this joke in my act. The joke was just not right for me. And so when I got to where we were going, after the first show that night, we're back at the condo, and we're sitting out on the beach playing guitars, and Mitch was like, we're just talking about stuff, and I'm like, man, I got a joke for you. And he goes, man, Chastler, that's where we always say everything, whenever we spoke, anything out of his mouth started with, man, Chastler. So he goes, man, Chastler, you know I don't take people's jokes. I go, no, man, I'm telling you, this joke is you. It's all you, and I can't sell it at all. He goes, I'll tell you what, you do the joke tomorrow night. If it works, the joke is yours. If it doesn't, I will do it while we were here and see what happens. So I got on stage, I did the joke, and it ate it. It laid so flat I could hear the crickets in the town next door to where we were working.
Yeah.
So Mitch did the joke the following night, and it crushed because it was really in his voice. I didn't write it for him. I was just reading something on the plane, and it inspired the joke. And Mitch did it, and I couldn't, and the joke went like this. If you ever get caught going through airport security with LSD in your briefcase, you can always tell them you're going on a business trip.
Yeah, that's good. And I can see, you're right, it's the vehicle that says the joke. And coming from Mitch Hedberg, you're already like 90% there ready to laugh. It's a business trip, you know?
And he literally did it like, oh, I have advice. If you ever travel and get caught going through security with LSD in your, he said attaché case.
Yeah. And
and that was another thing, like when we worked the joke, like instead of briefcase, attaché case.
Oh, yeah.
It worked in his rhythm. Attaché is a better picture. You know, and as comedians, we paint pictures with words that a lot of young comedians need to understand. So he said, man, if you ever get caught going through security, he cut out airport, too fatty. So if you travel and you get caught going through security with LSD in your attaché case, just tell them you are going on a business trip.
That's so good.
And so we were there for 2 weeks. After the show, the last show that night, we're back at the condo, and he walks up to me with a folded up piece of paper. And I opened the piece of paper, and it had the joke written out on it. And I go, what's this? He goes, I'm giving you back the joke. I told you I'll do it while I'm here. Yeah, literally. But he just did it with me while we were there.
Oh.
But you couldn't write for Mitch. Mitch's voice is his voice, and he didn't accept jokes really from other people, but we could work on them and fix them.
That's funny. I'm not that I'm like Mitch at all, but like I'm the same way. People try to write jokes for me, and it just misses. It just doesn't work for me. But I don't mind them. You know, like if someone said attaché case, I'd be like, yes. You know, like I said, kind of fixing it here and there. Do you? How about you? Do you like when other people write jokes for you, or does it not work for you, or does it work for you?
You know, if somebody wants to fix a joke and they say, hey, you know that joke you do? Yeah, well, if you did this, I think it might be funnier. Like, I don't have any issue with that if it's someone, you know, like you or, you know, a contemporary that says, you know, if you put the screwdriver in and just tighten this here, I think you'll get a bigger laugh on that. I don't really have an issue with that. Someone says, hey, I got a joke for you that I can't use and it'll fit perfect in this bit. Let me hear the joke. Then I'll break the joke down. I'll smash it with a sledgehammer and rebuild it so it's mine.
You'll grow your hair out like Gallagher and smash it with a sledgehammer.
I will. I really will. I won't do it as they give it to me because I didn't write that.
Right.
Which means it's never going to taste right coming out of my mouth.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I used to, I remember back in the day, I thought, well, if I ever want to, you know, be like a Tonight Show or, you know, like a talk show host, you're going to have to eventually let other people write jokes for you. So I remember this one guy sent me a page of jokes back in the 90s. And I'm like, this is like corny. I don't like any of this stuff. And plus, I also feel like I don't know where they got it from. So now you're like on stage doing something and people are like, dude, that's from an old special from, you know, you know what I mean? And a lot of my comedy is stuff that really happens. Like the earlier, you know, when I talked about having my son's clothes now, I'm wearing hand-me-ups. It's like, that's real stuff that's happening now, you know?
Yeah, you're getting your kids' stuff.
Exactly. Hey, we're going to, I want to have you back on. I want to wind down. I want to ask you a couple things. Do you have any words of wisdom for something that you've learned along the way in life, either for comedians or for people or just the general, like something that you've learned along?
Yeah. And the truth is I'm still learning. And I think one thing that I've learned that I find in my older years that is working very well for me is listen twice as much as you speak. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
That is 100% true.
I had a tendency to talk a lot as a youngster, and it took me longer to learn certain life lessons. And, pay attention to people who are trying to impart wisdom on you. They got that wisdom a certain way, So I think that that's pretty important in life. And really, most importantly, if you respect yourself on any level, then you will come across as somebody who respects other people. And, keeping your word is one of the most respectful things you can do. Try to live out of that. Be an expression of what you say. We are not the sum of our words, we're the sum of our actions. But when you say you're going to do something or you're going to show up a certain way, I think it's really, really important to actually show up that way and be an expression of your word. And, we are all human beings and nobody's below anybody. Don't be rude to waiters. Don't be rude to people you think are, you know what I mean? Take everyone into account. Here it is. You ready? This is the words of wisdom. And many people have probably heard this before, but don't judge people. Just don't judge people. Unless you've walked in another man's shoes, you don't know what he's been through, don't know what he's going through or his family is going through. So for you to pass judgment on somebody is arrogant and short-sighted and uncaring. And I don't really care what your political party is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care who you marry. I don't care what books you read. I don't care what country you're from. We are all fellow earthmen. We are all countrymen. We are all fellow human beings. Our obligation on the planet, you sign a moral contract the day your mom pushes you out, and that is to live at service to other human beings. That's the job. Live at service to other humans. And when you do that, the most incredible gifts just find their way into your space.
Absolutely.
It's maybe karma, maybe it's your angels or your metaphysical presence that you're opening up a portal to enable that to happen. But your job is to live at service to the guy standing next to you, no matter what it is. If he needs $1 online, or a guy is hitchhiking and needs a ride, or his car broke down, or there's a hungry guy outside the restaurant, give him your leftovers. Live at service to people. That's our job as human beings.
And doesn't it feel, I think it's almost like selfishly, it does make us feel good when we help others. It's like passing along information. Excuse me. Like some people, in this business or whatever, they like to hoard information, and I stay away from that. And I also don't like to do that. I like to say, because I find the more I give, the more it comes back, and it makes me feel good, makes them feel good. And it's, I have a new logo on the, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Frankie Leal, photographer Frankie Leal. Find him on Instagram.
Frankie Leal, a hell of a shooter, that guy.
He's great. And by the way, he's the one that did my logo. And somebody hit me up.
Oh, cool. I might need him.
Please. This morning, somebody hit me up and go, "That looks great. Did you do that yourself?" I said, "No, Frankie Leal. Here it is." And I sent them the link to his Instagram. It wasn't like I was like, it's private. I just told him exactly who did it, and here's how you get in touch with them. And I learned that. I
definitely want to come back, man. I like doing this with you. You're really, really great to talk to.
Richard, it was Richard. I mean, Rich.
You've been calling me Richard since the day we met. That's so funny. I mean, we didn't talk about God, there's so much to talk about. If you will have me back, Darren, I would be honored to come back.
Absolutely. I want to keep you in the rotation, man. This is so easy. And you're one of the last guys I know that has a landline, and that's why you sound so darn good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And if anybody cares, all my socials are at Rich Chassler. And you can see me if you're in Los Angeles tomorrow night at the Supernova show in Hollywood. Otherwise, you can see me bouncing around the Improv. or the Laugh Factory from time to time.
Oh yeah, Supernova is a very popular show, and man, that's great that you got booked on it. And like I'll put your links in all the descriptions, and you guys got to come up and say hi to Rich and let him know that you heard him on the Pocket Party. Man, he's a good guy, and you'll have some laughs with him.
Yeah, and if you're in LA, seriously, the Supernova show tomorrow night is ridiculously stacked. They book like all working headliner, you know what I mean? It's just massive talent. And tomorrow night is Pablo Francisco, Donnell Rawlings, Adam Ray, Ahmed, myself, Sarah Halstead, who's hilarious, Johnny Mitchell. Like, this is all, and Mike Lawrence, who crushes me. I could watch Mike Lawrence all day.
And a lot of comics, I don't know if you've thought of this, but a lot of comics will sell merchandise after their shows. You could maybe, I don't know if you're still doing this, but maybe you could wash their car for $10.
They won't hire me.
Yeah, they won't hire you.
That would be a losing. I could stand out after my show with like an open suitcase, like there was merch in it, but it would have like some sponges, a tire brush, some Simon eyes, and I'll just be like, wash your car for $10, mister? They'd be like, no, got a T-shirt.
Exactly. They're like, you got a T-shirt or anything else I can buy? My car is. I wouldn't trust you near my car, young man. Yeah.
Hilarious.
All right, buddy. I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. Please text me those or DM me on Instagram the photos and dude, thank you again for doing it. And man, have a great day, Rich. I'll see you soon, buddy. I'll see you at the Improv.
Darren, thank you so much for having me. I had a really, really good time, and I look forward to coming back. And everybody who's listening, thanks for listening to Darren. He's one of the swell ones.
Ah, my man. All right, buddy. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
You got
Bye-bye.
it. Bye. That was Rich Chassler, and I want to thank you guys for listening to the Pocket Party. And do me a favor, if you like it, go to YouTube and leave a comment on YouTube. If you're hearing this on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. That algorithm really likes those comments and ratings, the 5-star ratings and all that. If you want to, buy me a cup of coffee. Coffee is only like $10 nowadays. And I'm on Venmo at Darren Carter Comic on Venmo. And I'm on PayPal, DarrenCarter.com. PayPal, also the Cash App. It's $, Darren Carter Comic. And I want to thank you guys again for being part of our family. And like I said, go to Frankie Leal Photography on Instagram, and he'll make logos for you. He'll do any kind of artwork. If you're in the California area, like Los Angeles or Central California, set up a date with him and get a photo shoot. Frankie Leal. All right, y'all. I'm Darren Carter, the party starter, and thanks for starting that party in your ear holes. Have a great day. Don't hurt nobody. Be careful.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to The Pocket Party.